The first thing I noticed was the smell of her perfume, strong, like she had bathed in it. It filled the hallway long before she even walked through the door. I was standing in the kitchen, staring at the cold coffee I hadn't touched since midnight, when the clock on the wall hit 7:03 a.m. That's when the front door creaked open. She didn't see me at first. Clara tossed her heels onto the floor, one clattering against the wall, and let out this strange laugh. Not a happy laugh, something else. It was the kind of sound someone makes when they don't know whether to cry or collapse. She had this look in her eyes, wide and glassy, like she'd just seen a ghost. I didn't ask where she'd been. I couldn't. My throat locked up. Instead, I just watched her drop her purse on the table and stumble toward the couch, where she sat down like the weight of the entire world had just fallen on her shoulders. I wanted to yell, to demand answers, but I couldn't even move. It felt like the room was spinning. And then she whispered it. I think I messed everything up. Those 5 words shattered something inside me. I didn't know what she meant, but my chest felt like it was caving in. Before I could respond, she started crying, soft at first, then uncontrollably. I sat across from her, not touching her, not saying anything, because I didn't know if I wanted the truth or if I wanted to keep pretending everything was fine. Her phone buzzed on the table between us. The name on the screen made my stomach drop. Victor. She saw me look at it and immediately grabbed the phone, shoving it into her bag like it was a bomb about to go off. Leonard, she said, her voice shaking, you need to trust me. Please, just trust me. But how do you trust someone who can't even look you in the eyes? That was the moment I realized I had to know the truth, no matter how much it hurt. Clara didn't stay to talk that morning. After that broken whisper and a few minutes of silence that felt like hours, she went upstairs, still wearing the same red dress from last night. I sat there at the kitchen table, listening to her footsteps creak above me, and all I could think was how different she felt in that moment. She wasn't my wife. She was someone else, someone I didn't know how to reach. When I heard the shower turn on, I realized I couldn't just sit there anymore. I don't know what drove me to open her purse. Maybe it was instinct, maybe it was fear, or maybe it was because deep down, I already knew the answer but wasn't brave enough to face it directly. Her phone was warm, like it had been clutched all night. My hands were shaking as I unlocked it, my thumb hovering over the screen like I was holding a grenade. I opened her messages, and there he was, Victor. The first message that caught my eye was from 3:47 a.m. You were incredible tonight. I can't stop thinking about you. My stomach flipped, and I had to read it twice to believe the words were real. I scrolled up. There were dozens of messages from him, some from earlier in the week, others from last night. They weren't explicit, not exactly, but there was this intimacy, this closeness in the way he spoke to her. Then I saw her reply from 4:12 a.m. We shouldn't be doing this. I don't know what I'm thinking anymore. That was the moment something in me cracked. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. I wanted to throw the phone across the room, but instead I just sat there, staring at the screen, frozen in this silent storm. Part of me wanted to wake her up right then and demand every detail. But another part of me, this pathetic, terrified part, was afraid of hearing the truth. When she finally came downstairs, wrapped in a towel, her eyes met mine for a second, and I swear I saw guilt written all over her face. But she didn't say anything. She just walked past me like I was invisible. I sat there, gripping the edge of the table, and all I could think was, what happened last night? The silence between us is what's killing me now. She won't talk, and I don't know if I even want her to. But I have to find out. Because I can feel it. Something happened at that party, something that's already started to tear my life apart. That day felt endless. Clara barely said a word to me. She left the house around noon, claiming she had to run errands, but I knew that was a lie. She never goes anywhere on Saturdays without telling me where she's going. I sat by the window like some pathetic watchdog, waiting for her car to return, every second making me feel smaller, weaker. I kept thinking about those messages, replaying them in my head until they burned into me like scars. You were incredible tonight. I can't stop thinking about you. Those words were poison. I could almost hear Victor's voice saying them, mocking me. When she finally came back, I tried to act normal, but I'm terrible at hiding my emotions. She noticed right away. What's wrong with you? She asked, dropping her bags by the door. I wanted to scream you're what's wrong with me, but instead, I asked, so, what exactly happened at Victor's party? She froze for just a second, and I caught it. that tiny flicker of panic in her eyes. It was like seeing lightning in the distance, but I knew the storm was coming. She laughed, but it sounded forced. What do you think happened? We had drinks, played some stupid games, listened to music. That's it. Why are you asking? I wanted to tell her I had seen the messages, that I knew something happened, but I chickened out. My voice came out small, trembling. You were gone all night, Clara. All night. You didn't answer your phone, you didn't text me back. I thought something happened to you. She rolled her eyes, like I was being dramatic. I told you I'd be home late. You overthink everything, Leonard. Maybe try trusting me for once. That cut deep because trust is all I've ever given her. It's the only thing I had. I sat there, silent, while she went upstairs and slammed the bedroom door. I felt like the floor beneath me was about to give way. Later that night, I couldn't stop myself. I waited until she fell asleep, then I quietly slipped out to the garage. Her car smelled like smoke and perfume, stronger than usual and not hers. There was a crumpled receipt from a liquor store in the cup holder, timestamped 2:19 a.m. My heart sank. Why would she be at a liquor store at that hour? I stared at that receipt like it was a clue in some crime scene. I went back inside, my head spinning. I thought about the messages again. We shouldn't be doing this. I don't know what I'm thinking anymore. Did she regret it? Or was she just afraid of getting caught? Every possibility was worse than the last. That night, I lay in bed next to her, wide awake, wondering if the woman I loved had already left me in every way that mattered. She was inches away from me, but it felt like a canyon had opened between us. And I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of something much darker. The next day, I did something I never thought I'd do. I decided to go after Victor directly. I didn't tell Clara. I didn't even know what I was going to say if I found him. All I knew was that I couldn't just sit in that house, suffocating under the weight of her silence and lies. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel the whole drive to their office building, but I didn't care. I felt like I had nothing left to lose. When I arrived, the parking lot was nearly empty. It was a Sunday, after all, but Victor's black SUV was there, gleaming like it belonged to someone who believed he was untouchable. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, staring at that SUV, imagining him laughing at me behind my back, replaying every word I had read on Clara's phone. I could feel the anger boiling under my skin, but mixed with that was this raw, pathetic desperation to understand why this was happening. I waited until he came out. He was taller than I imagined, with that smug, polished look that made me want to punch the grin off his face. He didn't notice me at first. I stepped out of my car and called his name. Victor. My voice cracked, but I didn't care. He turned, confused, and then smirked when he realized who I was. Oh, Leonard, he said, like we were old friends. What's up? I wanted to rip that smirk off his face. Cut the crap, I said, trying to sound tougher than I felt. What happened at your party? And don't you dare lie to me. He tilted his head, almost amused, like this was a game to him. You really want to know? You think Clara told me to keep secrets for her? Maybe you should be asking your wife, not me. Something in the way he said that made my blood run cold. It wasn't what he said. It was how calm he was, how certain he seemed that I already knew the truth but couldn't face it. I stepped closer, my fists clenched. If you touched her. He laughed. Actually laughed. Relax, man. It's not like that. Well, maybe it is. You'd have to ask her. Then he walked past me, like I wasn't even there, and got into his SUV. He drove off, leaving me standing there, humiliated and angrier than I've ever been in my life. I got back in my car and just sat there for what felt like hours. My mind was racing, replaying every detail of Clara's behavior over the past few weeks. The late-night texts, the sudden changes in her schedule, the cold way she looked at me like I was some inconvenience. I felt like I was going insane. When I got home, Clara was in the kitchen, casually scrolling through her phone like nothing was wrong. I just stood there in the doorway, watching her, trying to figure out if she was the same woman I married or a stranger who'd been pretending all along. I wanted to ask her outright what she had done, but I couldn't find the words. Instead, I muttered something stupid like, "How was your day?" She glanced up, smiled faintly, and said, "Fine." That was it. No guilt, no apology, just fine. That night, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed her phone again while she was asleep. This time, I didn't just check Victor's messages. I went through everything. Emails, social media, even old photos. And what I found made my chest tighten like I couldn't breathe. There were pictures from the party, pictures she didn't know were saved to her cloud. In one of them, she was leaning against Victor on a couch, his arm around her waist, both of them holding glasses of whiskey and smiling like they were the only two people in the world. I felt like I was staring at a photograph of my own failure. I shut the phone, sat on the edge of the bed, and just broke. I don't even know how long I sat there, crying silently, trying not to wake her. The next morning, I woke up with this burning knot in my stomach. I barely slept, just lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to Clara's steady breathing beside me like nothing had changed. I wanted to shake her awake, scream at her, demand answers, but I didn't. Instead, I slipped out of bed, grabbed my jacket, and left the house without saying a word. I felt like I was losing my mind, like every second I stayed there pretending everything was fine, I was dying a little inside. I drove with no destination at first, just speeding through empty roads, the early morning light cutting through the fog. My thoughts were a mess. Images of that photo of her with Victor burned in my head, his hand on her waist, the way she looked at him. I wanted to hate her, I wanted to hate him, but mostly, I hated myself for being so weak, for being the kind of man who just sits back while his marriage falls apart. Somewhere along the way, I made a decision. I wasn't going to just sit and wait for her lies anymore. I was going to get the truth, even if I had to rip it out of Victor's smug mouth. I remembered overhearing Clara mention that Victor spent most of his Sundays at some overpriced rooftop bar downtown, bragging about his exclusive connections. So I went there. It was early, but the bar was already half full, the kind of place where people dressed like they had something to prove. I spotted him almost immediately. He was sitting with two other guys, laughing, sipping on some fancy cocktail like he didn't have a care in the world. My blood boiled. I marched straight up to his table. "We need to talk," I said, my voice low but shaking with anger. He looked up, smirked, and leaned back in his chair like I was some joke. "Leonard, you stalking me now? Cute." I grabbed the edge of his table so hard my knuckles turned white. "What happened that night, Victor? Tell me the truth, or I swear." He cut me off, leaning forward, his smile curling into something cruel. "You want the truth? Fine. Your wife isn't the woman you think she is. She's been unhappy for a long time, man. Maybe she didn't tell you that while you were busy, what? Sitting at home, doing nothing?" Those words cut me deeper than any blade could. I wanted to hit him, but instead, I just stood there, frozen, my hands trembling. "You're lying," I muttered, but even I didn't believe it. Victor chuckled. "Look, Leonard, I'm not the bad guy here. If she wants something different, maybe you should ask yourself why." Then he turned back to his drink, dismissing me like I was nothing. I left before I did something I'd regret. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. On the way home, I couldn't stop thinking about what he said. Was Clara really that unhappy? Had I been so blind, so oblivious, that I didn't see her slipping away from me? When I got home, Clara was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone like she hadn't even noticed I'd been gone for hours. I stared at her, and for the first time, I didn't see the woman I married. I saw someone distant, someone I couldn't reach no matter how hard I tried. And that terrified me. That night, I made another reckless decision. I called one of her coworkers, a woman named Mia, who I'd met a few times at company dinners. I told her I needed to talk about Clara. At first, she hesitated, but when I told her I knew something was going on, she sighed and agreed to meet me the next day. I don't know what Mia is going to say, but I have this sick feeling in my gut that whatever I find out is going to change everything. The next day, I arrived at the coffee shop half an hour early, too wired to sit still. I kept glancing at the door every time it opened, my leg bouncing under the table, my thoughts running wild. Mia showed up 10 minutes late, and the moment I saw her, I could tell she didn't want to be there. She looked around nervously before sliding into the seat across from me. "Leonard," she said, barely making eye contact. "I don't know if I should be talking to you about this." That one sentence made my heart pound harder. "Please," I said, almost whispering. "I need to know what's happening. I need to know if something happened with Victor. I can't keep living like this, Mia. I'm going crazy." She sighed, stirring her coffee like it was a way to avoid looking at me. "You're not imagining things," she said finally, and her voice was heavy, like she'd been holding this in for too long. "Victor, he's not a good guy. He likes pushing boundaries, especially with women he knows are married or in relationships. He gets a kick out of it. And Clara, well, she's been going through something lately. Everyone at work has noticed she's been different, quieter, more distracted. I leaned in, my hands gripping the edge of the table. Different how? Mia hesitated, her eyes flicking to mine for just a second before looking away. That night, the party, people saw them together. Not just talking. They were close. Too close. I didn't see everything, but I know Clara left with him when everyone else was still there. They didn't come back for hours. Leonard, I'm sorry, but I can't keep pretending I don't know what's going on. I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. My ears were ringing, and I couldn't hear the noise of the cafe anymore. It was just me, Mia's voice, and the pounding of my own heart. I wanted to scream, to deny it, but deep down, I already knew. The picture I found, the texts, it all made sense now. My chest tightened until I thought I might actually pass out. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I asked, my voice shaking. Because it's not my place, she said softly. And because I didn't want to hurt you. But Leonard, you deserve to know. You need to talk to her. Whatever happened, you can't let this fester. I nodded, but I wasn't really listening anymore. My mind was already somewhere else, back at home, staring at Clara while she scrolled through her phone, acting like everything was normal. Something snapped inside me then. I couldn't just sit in silence and let her make me feel like I was losing my mind. I drove home like a man possessed, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard they hurt. When I walked in, Clara was sitting on the couch again, watching TV with this blank look on her face. I stood in the doorway for a long time, just watching her, thinking about what Mia said. Finally, I blurted out, "We need to talk." She looked at me, surprised, like she wasn't expecting me to say anything. "About what?" she asked, but her voice was too calm, too practiced. "About you and Victor," I said, my voice louder than I meant it to be. "About what happened that night." Her face changed instantly. The calm mask slipped, and for a split second, I saw fear flash across her eyes. But then she laughed. Actually laughed. "Are you seriously still on this? Leonard, I'm tired. I'm not doing this with you right now." She got up to walk away, but I stepped in front of her. My voice cracked as I said, "Don't lie to me. I know. I talked to Mia." That stopped her cold. She froze, her hand tightening on the back of the couch, and for a moment, she looked like she didn't know what to say. That silence was louder than any confession. Clara didn't speak for a long moment, just stood there with her back straight and her jaw tense, like she was fighting an invisible war inside her head. I could feel the weight of that silence pressing down on me, and it was unbearable. "Say something," I whispered, my voice barely holding together. "Just tell me the truth, Clara. I can't keep guessing what's going on in my own marriage." She turned slowly, her face pale but her eyes hard, like she'd made some decision that would hurt us both. "You really want the truth, Leonard? You think you can handle it?" Her voice was sharp, but there was this tremor underneath, like she was holding back tears. "Yes," I said, even though I wasn't sure I could. She let out a bitter laugh and shook her head. "Victor kissed me that night. And yes, I kissed him back. We were both drunk. I was angry at you, and I don't know. It just happened. But that's all, Leonard. That's all it was." Her words hit me like a wrecking ball. I felt my knees weaken, like the floor wasn't steady anymore. "You kissed him," I said, my voice cracking on every word. "After everything we've been through, you?" I couldn't even finish the sentence. I felt humiliated, broken in a way I didn't even think was possible. "It didn't mean anything," she said quickly, almost pleading. "It was stupid. I hate myself for it. I've been trying to forget it ever happened. But you keep looking at me like I'm guilty, like I'm some kind of criminal in my own home. Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I wanted to feel this way?" I stared at her, my hands shaking, my heart pounding like it was trying to break out of my chest. "Then why didn't you tell me? Why did I have to hear about it from someone else? If you were sorry, Clara, you would have come to me the moment it happened." She looked at me like I'd just slapped her. "Because I was scared. You think I don't know how fragile you are, Leonard? You would have fallen apart, and maybe I didn't want to face what that would do to us. To me." The way she said it, fragile, cut deeper than anything else. She wasn't just confessing. She was saying out loud what I'd always feared she believed about me, that I was weak, pathetic, the kind of man a woman could walk all over and still expect him to stay. I felt something inside me snap. I walked past her, went straight to the kitchen, and grabbed a glass of water just to have something to hold, something to keep my hands busy so I wouldn't completely lose it. She followed me, but I couldn't look at her. "You don't get it. I said finally, my voice low and raw. It's not just the kiss, Clara. It's everything. It's the way you look at me now, like I'm not enough. It's the fact that you didn't even care enough to come home until the sun came up, like I was just waiting here like an idiot. I turned to face her, and I could see tears in her eyes now. Do you even love me anymore? Or was that kiss just the start of something you've been wanting for a long time? Her lips parted, like she wanted to say something, but no words came out. That silence was worse than any answer she could have given me. I set the glass down and walked away, needing space, needing air. But as I reached the doorway, I heard her voice, soft and trembling. I don't know what I want anymore. Those words gutted me. I left the house that night without a plan, just driving aimlessly until I found myself parked outside that rooftop bar again. I don't even remember making the decision to go there, but I knew I couldn't let Victor get away with this. I needed to see him one more time, to tell him to stay the hell out of my life. But when I walked into that bar, I found something I didn't expect, something that would make everything worse. When I walked into that rooftop bar, my pulse was pounding so hard it felt like my heart was trying to escape my chest. I scanned the crowd, searching for Victor, ready to confront him one last time. But when I saw him, standing near the edge of the terrace with a drink in hand, I didn't feel anger anymore. I felt something else, exhaustion. I was tired of carrying all this rage, tired of feeling like a victim in my own life. I approached him, and he looked surprised to see me. "Leonard," he said with that usual smug tone, but I stopped him before he could continue. "I don't care what happened that night anymore," I said, my voice firm but strangely calm. "I don't care about you. I care about my wife, and I'm not going to let you stand between us. This isn't about you. It never was." Victor tilted his head, almost amused, but I didn't give him a chance to respond. I walked away, leaving him standing there like a shadow I'd finally decided to step out of. For the first time in days, I felt a strange sense of clarity. I realized I'd been so consumed by suspicion and pain that I hadn't even asked myself what I truly wanted. And the truth was, I didn't want to lose Clara. Not like this. Not without trying. When I got home, Clara was sitting on the couch, her face pale and her eyes swollen from crying. She looked up at me like she wasn't sure if I'd come back. I sat down beside her, and for a moment, we just stared at each other, the silence between us heavy but different, less angry, more broken. "I don't want to fight anymore," I said quietly. "But I can't keep living like this, Clara. If we're going to fix this, we both have to want it. We both have to fight for it." She took a shaky breath, her eyes glistening. "I do want it," she whispered. "I've been so stupid, Leonard. I let things get to a place they never should have. I was angry, I was lonely, but none of that excuses what I did. I want us. I still love you." Those words hit me harder than anything Victor could have said. I didn't respond right away, but I reached for her hand, and when our fingers intertwined, I felt something I thought I'd lost: hope. Real, fragile hope. We spent hours talking that night, really talking for the first time in years. We laid everything out, the fights we never resolved, the resentment we never admitted, the way we'd both stopped trying somewhere along the way. There were tears, there were apologies, and for once, no lies. It was raw and messy, but it was real. The next morning, we decided to take a few days off work and get away from everything. We drove out to a quiet cabin by the lake, just the two of us. There was no TV, no distractions, just long conversations and the sound of the water lapping at the shore. We cooked together, laughed for the first time in weeks, and started remembering why we fell in love in the first place. It's not perfect now, not even close. We still have a lot to fix, and trust is something that takes time to rebuild. But for the first time since that night, I don't feel like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff anymore. I feel like we're climbing back, one step at a time. Maybe that's all marriage really is, choosing to climb back together, even when it feels impossible. And for the first time in a long time, I believe we can.